Right now, thousands of Kaspa holders are sitting around waiting for that magical Binance or Coinbase listing. They're convinced that's the moment everything changes, the price explodes, the charts go vertical, and suddenly everyone's retiring early. But what if that entire belief system is completely backwards? What if getting listed on these massive exchanges is actually the worst thing that could happen to KS? Yeah, I know how that sounds, but stick with me, because a prominent crypto voice just dropped an analysis that flips this whole narrative on its head, and honestly, it's the most refreshing take I've heard in months. Every few weeks, the Kaspa community erupts with the same conversation. When Binance, when Coinbase, it's become almost ritualistic at this point. Holders genuinely believe that the second one of these giants lists KAS, the floodgates open and prosperity rains down on everyone. According to KREX Token, a well-known crypto enthusiast on X, that assumption deserves to be completely dismantled. And honestly, the guy's got a point that more projects should be paying attention to. Here's the thing. We've been conditioned to worship centralized exchange listings like they're the ultimate validation. Big exchange equals legitimacy, right? More liquidity, more eyeballs, more moon potential. That mental model worked beautifully back in 2017, maybe even 2020. But in 2025, the game has fundamentally changed, and most people are still playing by outdated rules. KREX Token argues that Kaspa's strength has absolutely nothing to do with whether Binance sends them a listing email. And frankly, that's the kind of thinking that separates long-term winners from short-term gamblers. So why does this belief persist? Because hope is a powerful drug, especially in crypto. When you're holding bags and the price isn't moving how you want, a Binance listing feels like the cavalry coming over the hill. It's tangible, it's something to point to, something to wait for. The problem is that this waiting game has stretched on for so long that people are starting to wonder if it even matters anymore. And that doubt, that's where things get interesting. According to KREX Token, the power of Kaspa never came from exchange listings in the first place. It's built into the technology, the community, the actual innovation behind the project. Sure, centralized exchanges used to dictate a project's trajectory, back when they were the only game in town. But that era is fading faster than most people realize. And here's where it gets uncomfortable for listing enthusiasts. Those quick pumps everyone dreams about, they're usually followed by brutal, soul-crushing periods where automated trading bots and market makers systematically drain all that momentum. You get your 15 minutes of glory, then months of watching high-frequency trading algorithms turn your chart into a staircase heading down. What if chasing a Binance listing is actually chasing fool's gold? What if the very thing the community is begging for could undermine everything Kaspa stands for? That's the question KREX Token is forcing people to confront, and honestly, it's making a lot of folks uncomfortable. Let me break down why this perspective actually makes sense, because I'll admit, my first reaction was skepticism, but the more I think about it, the more I realize KREX Token is identifying something most crypto holders conveniently ignore. First, let's talk about what actually happens when a token lands on a major exchange. Yes, there's an initial surge, hype does its thing, but then what? The token enters an ecosystem controlled entirely by the exchange's rules, market makers, and internal policies. Your price action is no longer organic. It's filtered through liquidity requirements, automated systems, and strategies designed to benefit the exchange, not the token holders. According to KREX Token, KAS could face unnecessary pressure under those conditions, and, history backs this up. Countless tokens have seen their charts distorted and weakened after major listings, not strengthened. Second, Kaspa's entire philosophy leans toward decentralization. That's not marketing fluff, it's baked into the protocol. KREX Token emphasizes that Kaspa belongs in an environment where users actually own their assets, not where they're encouraged to leave everything on a centralized platform vulnerable to hacks, freezes, and regulatory seizures. A Binance listing would inevitably push more KAS tokens onto centralized exchanges, creating exactly the kind of custodial risk that, honestly, contradicts the project's core values. It's like a vegan restaurant begging McDonald's for a partnership. Sure, you'd get exposure, but at what cost to your identity? Third, and this is where I fully agree with KREX Token, Kaspa is already growing without these listings. The network operates smoothly, development continues, adoption spreads through grassroots communities. The fundamentals are rock solid. So why should Kaspa beg for approval from platforms that might not even align with its long-term vision? KREX Token suggests flipping the script entirely. Maybe Binance and Coinbase should be the ones approaching Kaspa, not the other way around. That's a power dynamic shift that actually respects the project's value instead of treating exchanges like crypto kingmakers. And here's my take on this. I think KREX Token is pointing at a broader evolution in crypto that most retail investors haven't internalized yet. The 2017 playbook is dead. Back then, exchanges were gatekeepers because there just weren't many alternatives. Now, decentralized exchanges, cross-chain bridges, and direct peer-to-peer networks provide liquidity without sacrificing control. The old model where you needed Binance's blessing to succeed is becoming obsolete, and projects that recognize this early will have a massive advantage. If Kaspa never gets listed on Binance or Coinbase, doesn't that limit its price potential? In theory, yes. In practice, not necessarily. Price appreciation comes from utility, adoption, and scarcity, not just listing announcements. If Kas continues solving real problems and attracting genuine users, the price will reflect that value regardless of where it's traded. Think about Bitcoin's early years. It wasn't on any major exchange initially. It grew because people believed in the technology and the vision. Kaspa might be following a similar path, building from the ground up rather than relying on institutional validation. That's a slower burn, but it's also a more sustainable foundation. Now, I'm not saying exchange listings are inherently evil. They're tools, and tools can be useful in the right context. But KREX Token's point is that the community needs to stop treating them like the only path to success. Kaspa's strength lies in its technology, its ability to process blocks at speeds that make Bitcoin look like it's running on dial-up internet. That's the story. That's what should attract attention and investment, not whether some exchange decided to add Kas to their trading pairs. Here's something KREX Token mentions that I find particularly compelling. Automated trading systems on centralized exchanges can drain momentum from tokens. Those algorithms aren't designed to support projects, they're designed to extract profit through arbitrage, wash trading, and market manipulation. When you list on a major exchange, you're voluntarily entering that shark tank. For a project like Kaspa that values decentralization and organic growth, it's worth questioning whether that environment is even compatible with the mission. Plus, let's be real about the listing process itself. It's expensive, it's political, and it often requires compromises that serious projects shouldn't have to make. Do you really want Kaspa's development roadmap influenced by what some exchange demands in exchange for listing? Because that's frequently part of the deal. Marketing commitments, token allocations, you name it. KREX Token's argument is that Kaspa should maintain its independence rather than compromise for short-term listing hype. So, where does this leave us? If you're holding KAS and you've been obsessively checking for Binance or Coinbase announcements, maybe it's time to shift your focus. Instead of waiting for external validation, pay attention to network upgrades, adoption metrics, and developer activity. Those are the indicators that actually predict long-term success. KREX Token's perspective is a reminder that crypto's original promise was about decentralization and financial sovereignty, not recreating the same gatekeeping systems traditional finance uses. Kaspa has an opportunity to grow differently, to prove that a project can thrive without bowing to centralized exchanges. And honestly, that's more exciting than any listing announcement could ever be. If you enjoyed this analysis, check out my other videos where I break down crypto projects that are actually building something meaningful. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future content, and drop a comment letting me know if you agree with KREX Token, or if you still think Binance and Coinbase listings are essential. I read every comment, and I genuinely want to hear your perspective on this. As always, nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrency is incredibly risky, and you should never invest more than you can afford to lose. Do your own research, understand what you're buying, and make decisions based on your own financial situation. Stay safe out there.